there was something going on weird with the live last time. But Luigi, they are going to extradite him. He's still fighting it or whatnot, but they were able to charge him with, I think, an act of terrorism and a, you know, the unaliving charge. And they're trying to see if they can extradite him. I think they will be able to now because they're charging him with it. So he's about to have to sit down with that. He seems to have fans in the prison that he's in right now, but the reporting on that was from like News Nation, and News Nation is some right wing, real weird news network. So you can watch those videos at your own leisure and see if you can tell if they're real or not. But you can see the news reporter talking outside of the prison, and you hear prisoners, alleged people that are in prison, yelling about Luigi and yelling about the conditions for him. And the people on the News Nation like, yeah, we need to be able to. Yeah, he's had bad conditions, and yeah, we can see you guys on TV. I don't know how well prison cable is or like the internet is. I'm not in prison, nor do I ever want to be, so I don't know the situation. But News Nation made it seem like the people that were locked up with him on his side and speaking about how bad the material conditions are for him. But he's supposed to be getting extradited. What's hilarious is that they hit him with an active terrorism charge, and I did not know you can do that for unaliving somebody. Because if that's the case, why doesn't everybody get hit with that same kind of charge? And is it an act of terrorism because he scared the shareholders? Like, is that what we on right now? Because when you consider that no one is like affected by that besides Brian and his family, how is it an act of terrorism? Is Brian a nation? Is United Healthcare like a very strong? I mean, is United Healthcare like an infrastructure that we need to uphold at all costs? And if it fails, then we fail? How is it an act of terrorism for homie to be, get his wig split or whatnot? Like, I do also find it funny that we live in a time now, which is a great time to see what has transpired amongst humanity. Amongst humanity in regards to how we are dealing with day-to-day interactions between the capitalists and the proletariat. Because you have news nations, you have news outlets like, hey, yeah, I don't know why someone would do that. Like, why would somebody leave from wherever they live at, take a bus to New York City, and then go smoke a CEO of a health insurance company? Why would someone do that? Why would somebody go after the dude who is the CEO of a company that has denied over 30% of claims? Why would someone want to do that? I don't get it. And then they were on some, deny, defend, depose or whatever. Like, what is that? What does that mean? Why would somebody want to do that? Like, it is really telling. Like, my late mother worked in the healthcare industry, and she worked for hospitals with health insurance. So as a child, I've learned about how screwed up the system is, and the way she explained things to me. And she's like, yeah, it's disturbing, like how, for instance, ACA, the Affordable Care Act, right? Or quote unquote Obamacare, that the right wing people have coined it, and that some people didn't know the difference between ACA and Obamacare. It's literally the same thing. So initially, people were wanting a single payer, right? People wanted to be able, like, I think Canada has that model, and maybe Sweden. A couple places have that model of like single payer, if I'm not mistaken. But don't quote me on this. But single payer wanting to be able to, go to the hospital and not become poor after you go to the hospital. Say skibbity, that's funny. Yeah, the discrepancy is disgusting. So they wanted a single payer. The Obama administration was like, yeah, for sure, man. Healthcare for everybody. Everybody gets to eat. Like, we're going to do that. Yeah, word. Like, that's definitely going to happen. Then the health insurance industry came back to, that administration was like, fam, if you do that, then we can't make any money off health insurance. We can't charge people ridiculous amounts of money to get every single penny out of them. So you can't do that. What you can do is create a system where people can buy healthcare on the market. And if they buy it on the market, they can get it for cheaper. And then we can take away pre-existing conditions. So that way we open the doors for people to be able to purchase healthcare. And on its face, that sounds, what's up, Juggernaut? On its face, that sounds a little better. But when you think about it, no, it doesn't, because why do I have to pay for health insurance, healthcare? That doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm sick. I should just be able to go to the hospital. And then someone would say, but what about the doctors? They need to get paid. We should not have a system where people die if they don't have the money. That doesn't make sense. So one of the biggest things outside of getting rid of the pre-existing conditions was the way that medical records were kept. So like I said before, mom worked in the medical industry. One of the biggest parts of ACA that they fought against was being able to update how they keep medical records. What's the difference between a pregnant woman and a light bulb? You can unscrew a light bulb. So a lot of hospitals, a lot of private practices, a lot of like just your rinky dink shit used to keep medical records on paper. Like you would have your phone was basically more updated than actual medical records. Like you had to, they were asking these they were asking these hospitals and these private practices to update their medical records and be able to make everything digitized. So once they made everything digitized, yeah, I know I need to probably make a admin one of these times. Once they make everything digitized or whatnot, that scared a lot of private health providers and a lot of hospitals, because a lot of them were doing a lot of malpractice. A lot of them were doing fudging the numbers and overcharging people for certain procedures, because they knew that since everything was written down on paper, it was kind of hard to track. So that was one of the biggest parts of ACA that they fought. So that even came about. Like I know if you're aware of when ACA was first coming about with those death panels, where they were saying like, yeah, they was going to choose who killed and can't get health care. It's like, that's not what that was about. That was about the medical records. That was about them being able to update medical records, them being able to stop the real archaic way in which they used to keep medical records. So when it comes to the other part of healthcare that's real nasty as far as this system, this industry, is a insurance manager, like a healthcare manager, which is basically the middleman between the hospital and the insurance. The healthcare manager is the person that finesses a way to get a number that they can charge the person, whether that be me, you, or anybody in this chat, for whatever thing that they got at the hospital. So let's say you went to the doctor for like a broken leg or something like that. They saw you, they treated you or whatnot. Your insurance said it was gonna cover it or whatnot, however much it was gonna cover it. You go home, you come back. You go home a few weeks later, whatever, you get a bill. That bill be like, sometimes, let's say $5,000. That's because between the health insurer and the hospital, the manager was like, hey, look, we need to find a way to get paid from this. The hospital doesn't want to charge that much because it's just a broken leg. There's only but so much you can do. We don't need that much. The insurer is like, yeah, but we also want to raise this person's premium because after or at least raise something so then that way we can recover from having to pay for this person's broken leg. The manager in the middle was like, I bet. So I'm gonna make it where we're gonna charge like 5 grand. We're gonna just throw that number at this person. Damn well knowing you can't pay $5,000 for your broken leg. So what happens is you get that bill, you look it over, you say, fuck this, you pay maybe $300, $400. Then after a while, they send you a couple notices. It might end up on your credit, might not, and it goes away. Realistically, they just want money. They don't care how much money you pay them back. So that medical debt, they just want some money. So when it comes to the situation of, for instance, United Healthcare, they were an insurance company. They provided no health care. The hospital does. So health insurance is on the side of the health is on the side of the insurance managers and the health insurer. The people that cover you when you go to the hospital. But realistically, hospitals don't charge ridiculous amounts of money for you to be able to have procedures. The health care manager or whatever and the insurer does. So when it comes to somebody like Brian Thompson, people say like, oh yeah, he was just he was just a CEO, just working, doing things, man. I mean, what do you expect? It's like, no, but he chose to be in that position. He was also facing a lawsuit. It's him, it's a chairman, and it's another CEO, I think, from United Healthcare that were being sued currently. He's dead now, obviously, but that were being sued by the Hollywood Fire Department pension fund or whatever for insider trading and stealing their money. So what happened with that is United Healthcare was dealing with like some other company through that was working with the fire department pension fund. The company they were dealing with had a security breach. A bunch of people's information got leaked out, so it was looking real nasty for them, right? United Healthcare had that information that they had the security breach. This is gonna mess with the stock, the stock of this company. Shit might get a little hairy for the people that have their money in this pension. So what happened, alleged, because nobody went to prison and I ain't trying to get sued, allegedly, Brian Thompson and one of the chairmen were able to sell their stock. Brian sold his stock for $15 million. A chairman or whatever sold their stock for like $100 million. And the fireman's pension fund like collapsed, like it failed, right? So there's a bunch of firemen without monies for when they retire because of alleged insider trading. Again, I'll say alleged because I'm not trying to get sued. That's the kind of time he was on. Then you have the media like, oh, I mean, his family, his wife and daughter, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, fam, there's a lot of terrible people who have family and friends. I think we think too adversarial about bad people. Because a bad person is just somebody that consistently does something bad, but like there's no such thing as an inherent bad person in that you don't come out the womb evil or come out the womb doing bad stuff. You are just somebody that is doing bad things consistently, so someone would say, oh, that's a bad person. So Brian Thompson could have a wife and kids. He could have been the best dad and husband or estranged husband, allegedly, to his ex-wife or current wife. Don't really care. But he could have been that for these people, but still be awful to everybody else. Like, not to compare him to, like, the mustache dude, but Eva Braun was his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend. You get what I'm saying? So the whole idea that, oh yeah, his family. And then also, what about all of the families that United Healthcare, with him being a CEO, has destroyed through medical debt, through denying them, denying them care? Like, what are we talking about? Like, stop that. And then there was an op-ed out from one of these damn publications or whatever that was like, yo, Brian Thompson is actually the defender of the people more than Luigi is. It's like, you realize explaining that Brian Thompson went from low to middle class kid, worked his way up to get himself into the health insurance industry to become a CEO, you realize that makes him a class traitor. That doesn't make him a person of the people. If your idea of being a person of the people is to be someone who is connected to a company that is systematically destroying a people, then what are we talking about? That's like saying, like, yo, I mean, he went from not being anything to being a mass murderer. Like, what are we talking about? That's not the same. That's not the same thing in the slightest. So Luigi, yeah, he's sitting down. I just would love to see how they're going to do this jury selection, if and when that happens, because there will be people that will, obviously get on the jury. There'll be people that'll obviously like have feelings about them. I mean, there's people in the media and outside of the media that are saying things in regard to Luigi. Sorry for this light. Hold on. That are saying things in regards to Luigi about, him being this or him being that. But we got to realize that his act is indicative of the zeitgeist. So like, like the feeling of the people, so to speak, like the ethos of the people or whatever have you. That, yeah, he went the extreme route for whatever reasons he did it for. I mean, you have his manifesto, and then they have like fake copies of his manifesto or whatever, for whatever reason he did it for. But the reason for a lot of apathy of the people is because it is literally a situation of a caste. We have people with a lot versus people with a little. The people with a lot keep getting more. The people with little keep getting less. There's going to eventually be a break where measures are taken by people with little against people with a lot. Because to say that violence is not the answer, so is Brian Thompson doing what he did as a CEO, is that not violence? Is denying people health care not violence? Is that not the same thing? Because his was so direct is the only difference as far as Luigi's, if he did it, allegedly, because of what Luigi allegedly did. If he did that, that violence is just direct. But Brian Thompson is as violent. Is not tanking, allegedly tanking a fire department's pension fund, not violence? Is that not, is not insider trading, is that not violence? Is denying someone whatever procedure they need through the healthcare system, is that not violence? That is also violence. So to say that his act, his alleged act, because we don't know if Luigi did it, to say that his alleged act is an act of terrorism according to the media and according to the charges, you could also say Brian Thompson's act that he's on trial for, but he's dead now. But that the other chairman and the other dude that was a part of United Healthcare, they're on trial for right now. You could also say that is violence because you're destroying families. You don't know the material conditions of these firemen. You don't know if they're you don't know if they're paraplegic. You don't know if they got PTSD. You don't know what they got going on in their lives. But you did know, allegedly, that the system that you were using to deal with their fund had a massive data leak that destroyed a lot of firefighters' pension fund, like their nest egg. That's violence, fam. Being a billionaire is violence against people. That's violence. Direct violence is direct violence, but there's different forms of violence. Like, this is like verbal abuse. All of these things are violence. Like, the fact that when homie got, when this Kufi got offed, when he got neutralized, when he was liquidated, whatever language you want to use, the fact that he was neutralized, he was cooked, as the youth say, and the media immediately act like they didn't understand why anyone would want to do that. is violence because you're playing in my face. Because you also think about how they're also trying to manipulate the situation by conflating the two. Healthcare and health insurance aren't the same thing. Those are those diametrically opposing. Those two totally different things. And I say they diametrically oppose each other because health insurance is insurance across the board. But health care is me helping you fixing whatever's going your ailments. Health insurance is just the blockade between me helping you with that and me not helping you with that. That's not health care. That's just basically a yes or no if you're gonna get it. It's a judge and jury. Like it's not that's violence, fam. That makes it's very, very telling that the media is trying to conflate healthcare and health insurance. And then they're trying to say, oh man, these CEOs, man, they're scared now. They're taking their faces and names off of the websites. Crap. Like, and then you got some CEOs coming out like, yeah, it is messed up that the system is like that. Okay. We know that. And it's not messed up that the system is like that. The system is working fine because you're benefiting from it. You wouldn't have said nothing before if Luigi didn't, if whoever did it, because it's alleged, but if Luigi did what he did, you wouldn't have been saying nothing about it if that didn't happen. Like, people wouldn't know that United Healthcare is currently dealing with the lawsuit, which implicated Brian Thompson as one of the people if, this didn't happen. Like, it's a lot of things you don't know until it reaches a boiling point. For instance, in America, there was, if I'm not mistaken, 3 people that were able to sue a Virginia private military contractor for torture. Because these 3, if I'm not mistaken, it was 3 people that were taken to Guantanamo Bay on suspicion of being terrorists with no actual affiliations to anything or anybody about that type of life and were tortured. And they won about like $48 million. And this was recently. But you wouldn't know that, because they don't want to talk about things of that nature, right? They don't want to let you know that, all of these supposed bad guys, who is the good guy that's catching the bad guy? Like, who is that person? The fact that that's only 3 people I'm talking about. There's hundreds of thousands of more. I mean, when you look at Syria, there's people that were taken into custody that weren't affiliated with ISIS or weren't affiliated with Al-Qaeda or weren't affiliated with any groups that were against the regime, and they were allegedly tortured. Right? And then when you even look at Syria from a standpoint of, did you even know that the U.S. worked with Syria extraditing people that the U.S. claimed were terrorists to Syria and complimented Syria on torture tactics? Like, Bashir al-Assad was just cool with some of these dudes not too long ago. Because America doesn't have enemies. Doesn't have friends. They just have people that they haven't killed yet. So this is not to say that all of the resistance fighters in Syria are, I know I'm jumping all over the place, sorry. But that all the resistance fighters in Syria are not for the liberation of their people. And that everybody is working with outside entities. But it's to say, like, we've seen this before. These material conditions that a lot of these people in Syria are facing, we've literally seen in Libya. We've seen in Afghanistan. We've seen in Iraq. Where Syria sits is very strategic to Israel and to Turkey. Like, you still have Kurdish people. You still have Syrian Christians. You have Alawites, like, scared. You still have people trying to figure things out. Like, you still have Israel moving in more and more. The more and more you see news articles and stuff talk about Syria and their revolution and them being free, the more Israel is getting closer and closer to taking more land in Syria. Benjamin Netanyahu was just on Mount Hebron or whatever, talking about like, we just surveying the scene. We just trying to see if we got to get out there, do our thing. And nobody's talking about that. But the media keeps talking about like, yeah, Bashir al-Assad was so evil, and these people are free now, and we just gotta be worried. We don't know if HTS is gonna be bad. We don't know. While Israel is literally carpet bombing everything in Syria. So it's a narrative thing that you got to look for. With the Brian Thompson situation, it's a narrative thing. Because homie is literally on trial for stealing money, allegedly, from a pension fund for firefighters. That's violence. That is violence. Like, the idea, again, of direct violence is the only one we seem to cling on to. But when you figure, like, okay, the system we have now, right? Everybody is like, oh, as far as the media with this situation, everybody's like, oh, this is wild that this happened. What are we gonna do? I guarantee you, in the next month and a half, people aren't going to care anymore because they'll make you not care. They're going to put something else in front of your face and talk about something totally different and make you not care about the Luigi situation. I mean, the Brian Thompson situation. And we're going to go right back to, regularly scheduled programming. So when you consider, for instance, in Kansas City, Missouri, there's people that are protesting their rent. They aren't paying rent because their conditions are dire. They live in places that aren't being kept up right? But you don't hear that in the media, because if you get more people to understand, like, oh, wait a minute, you could do that, more people are gonna be curious about it and want to do something. That's not to say that, like, with the Luigi situation, with the alleged situation with that more people are gonna go gunning for CEOs, but it's to say, like, oh, if we start to protest by removing our labor and our money and try to get more within mutual aid to, like, liberate ourselves, that's going to scare people with money. Because rather than the people with money being like, oh, yo, the healthcare system shouldn't be a system. Like, everybody should be afforded healthcare. Us as an insurance company, we should probably dissolve ourselves and, like, give all our monies to hospitals and doctors and nurses and techs and everything like that, and, like, build into the infrastructure. Just completely dissolve ourselves and look into other, forms of work to be able to help the community. Because what is an insurance company? Just like, what is a lawyer at sometimes? It's like, it's a leech. I'm not really doing anything positive for any of these people. We should probably look to do something better. No, they don't think about that. What they're thinking about is, like, oh my God, they got Brian, bro. They got B-Rod, bro. What we gonna do? They got B-Rod, bro. What we gonna do? We need to, I don't know, man. They got B-Rod. Rather than actually trying to change material conditions for people, they're trying to protect themselves. There was a news show, I think it was in Minnesota. Screw Tim Walz, he's a lame. But it was in Minnesota where you had the Minnesota CBS affiliate or whatever, like, talking to private security companies about how the influx of calls they've been getting since what happened to Brian. So rather than these CEOs, these CFOs, these COOs, all of these people that run these companies, rather than them being like, yo, again, we should probably sit down and really look to deconstruct what we do and why we do it and how we cannot probably do it anymore and make a better society. They like, now I'm trying to keep getting money though, bro. I want to hire this dude or get a drone or something to follow me around just in case it get wild out here, because I'm trying to get money, bro. I can't risk not getting money. Like, people gonna die, whatever, but I'm getting money, so I could care less about that. Just like, again, the idea that the media was like, yo, I mean, I understand that they kept saying healthcare, which is health insurance. Healthcare and health insurance are not the same thing. Yo, I understand that the health care system is not cool, But that didn't need to happen to Brian. He was a dad. Again, Brian was on trial for insider trading and destroying the lives of firefighters, couple hundred, couple thousand firefighters. That's violence, fam. What Luigi allegedly did is direct violence. That's the one that you see and be like, oh, that's violence. Somebody getting punched in the face, that's violence. Somebody being shot, that's violence. Stabbed, that's violence. But someone taking your job away from you, someone taking your life savings away from you, those are all forms of violence. And I mean maliciously. Like, I'm not saying like if you are somebody that's working a job and you aren't doing your job and you're whatever, for whatever reasons, you're being lackluster in your field of work and like you've been talked to about it and you lose your job. That's not a form of violence if they don't. That's not a form of violence only if they, but a lot of companies don't show any care because you could be having a lot going on in your life, but a lot of companies don't give a damn. But I'm saying when you have like massive layoffs of people. For instance, I worked at a company that like that was the thing they did every year, like every fourth quarter or whatever. They was laying people off. They was dissolving branches and just giving other people the work of the people that they laid off. That's violence. Like, what are we talking about? So you're telling me you're gonna remove all of these people from their job description because you claim that this branch is not worth being around, like it's you don't need it. Then you dissolve that branch, and now you're gonna put all that work on somebody else. You're not gonna upgrade their pay. You're not gonna give them any tools to be able to deal with the conditions that they are now under. You're just gonna give them more work. That's violence. We got to start calling a thing a thing. Like, this idea that we can be in this caste system and be told that we are supposed to feel bad for someone who is a CEO of a health insurance company because they went from nothing to something. I am not going to care about a class trader. Do I care about the loss of life? Yeah, for sure. I don't want anybody to be killed. I'm not for that at all. I don't want it. But when we talk about the actual people, I don't care about the person. There's a difference between caring about a life and caring about a person. So like Brian Thompson, the person, was a horrible person. There was a lot of things he did wrong. Him losing his life, that sucks. It didn't have to come to that. But when you consider all of the things, you're like, I can see how that something like that can happen. When you create a divide amongst the people where you have the bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie proletariat, the proletariat and the serfs, like you create a situation where things like that will happen. And rather than those sitting at the top of the pyramid, rather than being like, yo, this idea of trickle-down economics, this idea of tax breaks, this idea of being a multimillionaire, multi-billionaire, owning all this land, this is kind of trash. We shouldn't probably do that. We should be better humans. Rather than them doing that, they're like, I need to protect the top of this castle at all costs. I don't care about none of these people. I would rather protect what I have at the top of the castle. You're eventually going to get your castle stormed. All right, peace.